Book of Heaven, Volume 24, Part 13. August 26, 1928. The Divine Will is more than mother. How it grows together with the soul and forms its life in her. The lightning of the act done in it. The return of the breath of Jesus to make the divine will reign. My flight in the eternal Fiat is continuous. It seems to me that I cannot be, nor can I stop anywhere else but in it. I feel it more than life, inside and outside of me, and as much as I run and fly, I find but works, an interminable and boundless property, and its life palpitating in everything and everywhere. And while being present up high and down below, this divine will preserves everything, and is actor and spectator of everything. Now my littleness was wandering in the divine Fiat, going around through the whole creation, and making my little I love you resound in each created thing. It was asking for the kingdom of the divine will upon earth. And my lovable Jesus, making himself seen while carrying me in his arms, to let me follow the acts of his divine will, told me, "My daughter, how much my will loves you. More than mother, it holds you in its arms, and while holding you tightly to its bosom, it is inside of you to grow together with you. It palpitates in your heart. It circulates in your blood. It walks in your feet. It thinks in your mind. It speaks in your voice. Its love, its jealousy is so great that if you are little, it makes itself little. If you grow, it grows with you. And if you operate, it expands you so much as to extend you in all of its works. A mother can leave her daughter, can separate from her, be far away. My will? Never. Because making itself life of its daughter, it becomes inseparable from her. So even if it wanted to leave her, it cannot, because it is its very life that lives in its daughter, and that it has formed in her. Who could ever have this insuperable power and love to form and raise one's life with her daughter? No one. Only my will, that possessing an eternal love and a creative virtue, creates its life in one who is reborn and wants to be only its daughter. This is why you go around in the creation, because this mother, my divine will, wants, in all of her acts, the life that she has formed in you, her daughter. Therefore, one who lives in my divine Fiat runs together with the whirling, orderly, and harmonious race of the whole creation. And just as the orderly race of all the spheres forms the most beautiful and harmonious melody, the soul who runs with them forms her note of harmony, that echoing in the celestial fatherland draws the attention of all the blessed, and they say, "How beautiful is the sound that is heard in the spheres, because the little daughter of the divine Fiat is going around within them. It is one more note, and one distinct sound that we hear, and the divine volition brings it to us even into our celestial regions. Therefore it is not you who run, it is my will that runs, and you run together with it." Then I continued thinking about the great prodigies and sublimities of the divine Fiat, and while I was feeling dissolved in it, my beloved Jesus added, "My daughter, just as the lightning is unleashed by the clouds and illuminates the earth, and then it withdraws again into the womb of the clouds to light up the earth very often with its light, in the same way, the soul who lives in my will, as she operates, unleashes her lightnings from the womb of her humanity, and forms more light in the sun of my divine Fiat. Not only this, but she lights up the earth from the darkness of the human volition. However, the lightning that the clouds unleash is limited light, while the lightning produced in my divine will is without limits, and within its light it carries the knowledge of it. In fact, operating in my will contains the universal strength, and therefore one strength, new creation, divine life. So as she does her act of lightning, all the doors of my works open to receive the new creation and the lightning of light of the operating of the creature in my Fiat. Therefore, all my works feel renewed and twice glorified, and so they all celebrate in feeling the new creative strength over them. After this, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen as a little child in the depth of my little soul. He clasped me, he kissed me, he breathed over me, and I felt new life, new love being infused in me. And I repeated for him what he was doing to me. And repeating his kisses, he told me, "Little daughter of my will, as my breath breathes over you, it renews you, and with its vivifying power, it destroys in you the infection of the seed of the human volition, and vivifies the seed of my divine Fiat. This breath is the origin of the human life of the creature. But as man withdrew from my will, he lost my breath. And even though life remained in him, he no longer felt the vivifying strength of my breath, that in vivifying him maintained him beautiful, fresh, in the likeness of his Creator. So, without my breath, man remained like that flower that, having no more rain, wind and sun fades, withers, and lowering its head, it tends toward dying. Now, in order to rehabilitate the kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures, it is necessary that my continuous breath return into their midst, that, breathing over them, more than wind, may let the sun of my will enter into them, so that with its heat it may destroy the bad seed of the human volition, and man may return to be beautiful and fresh as he was created. And the flower, straightening up its stem again under the reign of my grace, raises its head again, becomes vivified, acquires color, and tends toward the life of my will, no longer toward death. Oh, if creatures knew the great good I am preparing, the surprises of love, the unheard of graces, how much more attentive they would be. And those who know the knowledges about my will, oh, how they would lay down their lives in order to fling them into the midst of the world, so that creatures may dispose themselves to receive such a great good. In fact, the knowledges have the virtue of helping to facilitate the human dispositions for a good so great. But human ingratitude is always the same. Instead of preparing themselves, they think of all else, and they hurl themselves into sin. August 30th, 1928. Difference between humanity and divinity of Jesus. How the kingdom of the Fiat has all been prepared by him. Nothing else is needed but those who would inhabit it. The language that Jesus used in redemption and what he uses for the kingdom of the divine will. One different from the other. My lovable Jesus made himself seen as a little child, who, all clinging to me, made me many loving cuddles. Oh, how beautiful it is to see him in his baby humanity, all love, all trust. The soul feels so much trust with Jesus, because she sees in him his humanity, which is so much like her, that they join together like brothers. They identify themselves with each other, and one is transformed into the other. So the veil of the humanity of Jesus, in which he encloses his adorable divinity, serves as means of trust, by which the poor creature loses all fear and remains all love with Jesus, more than a son in the arms of his celestial Father. The love of Jesus is so great that he says to the creature, "Do not fear, I am yours, similar to you, clothed like you, and my love is so great that I hide the endless light of my majesty within my humanity, so as to have you be with me like a little child in my arms." On the other hand, when my beloved Jesus makes his divinity shine through himself, his very humanity remains eclipsed within that endless light, and I feel the great distance between me and my Creator. His blazing divine majesty annihilates me. I plunge myself into my dust, and not knowing where to go to escape his light, because there is not one point in which it is not present, I am the little atom that remains submerged within his very light. It seems to me that I am speaking nonsense. Therefore I move on. So my highest good, Jesus, told me, "My daughter, the kingdom of my will is all prepared within my humanity, and I am ready to put it out, to give it to creatures. It can be said that I formed the foundations. I raised the factories. The rooms are innumerable, and all adorned and illuminated, not with little lights, but with as many suns, for as many truths as I have manifested about the divine fiat. Nothing else is needed, but those who would inhabit it. There will be a place and room for everyone, because it is vast, more than the whole world. With the kingdom of my will, everything will be renewed in creation. Things will return to their original state. This is why many scourges are necessary and will take place, so that divine justice may place itself in balance with all of my attributes, in such a way that, by balancing itself, it may leave the kingdom of my will in its peace and happiness. Therefore, do not be surprised if such a great good that I am preparing and that I want to give is preceded by many scourges. It is my justice that claims its rights, so that, once balanced, it may place itself in peace with creatures, giving them no more bother. More so, since the children of the kingdom of my divine fiat will no longer offend it, and my divine justice will change all of itself into love and mercy for them. Then after this, I was following all the acts that Jesus had done in redemption. And my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, my language in redemption was very different from what I have had for the kingdom of my divine will. In fact, in redemption, my language was to adapt to people who were incapable, weak, ill, deaf, mute, and blind, and many were on the verge of the tomb. Therefore, in order to speak to them, I made use of parables and similes of the low world, that they themselves could touch with their own hands. So I spoke to them now as doctor, offering them the medicines to heal them. Now as father, who awaited their return, even if they were unruly children. Now as shepherd, who went in search of the lost sheep. Now as judge, who, unable to attract them by means of love, tried to attract them at least by threats and by fear, and many other similes. This language of mine says that those to whom I was speaking did not know me, did not love me, and even less did they do my will. On the contrary, they were very far away from me, and that I with my parables made the searches and laid the net in order to catch them and give to each one the remedy to heal them. But how many escaped me? And I intensified the searches and the teachings to give light to many blind, that they might get out of their obstinate blindness. Now, see how different is my language that I have had in manifesting the truths on my divine will that must serve the children of its kingdom. My language on the fiat has been like a father in the midst of his dear and loving children, all healthy. And since each of them possesses my very life within them, by virtue of my will, they will be capable of understanding my highest lessons. This is why I have moved beyond, placing before them the beautiful similes of the sun, of the spheres, of the heavens, of the very divine way of operating that extends up to the infinite, because having my divine fiat in them, they will have within them He who created the heavens, the spheres, the sun, who will give them the virtue of copying within themselves everything He created, and His very ways that He has in His divine operating. These will be the copiers of their Creator, and this is why I have been so lengthy in manifesting the truths about my fiat that I did not do in redemption, because those were parables that contained human and finite manners. Therefore I did not have much material with which to be able to talk at length. On the other hand, the similes that regard my will are of divine manners, and therefore there is so much material to talk about that they become inexhaustible. Who can measure the vastness of the light of the sun and the intensity of its heat? No one. Who can ever put a boundary to the heavens and to the multiplicity of my divine works? Oh, if you knew how much wisdom, love, grace, light I have placed in manifesting my truths about my divine fiat, you would be so drowned with joy as to no longer be able to live, and you would yearn for the work of your Jesus to be known, so that a work so exuberant, of incalculable price, may have its glory, and may communicate its beneficial effects to the other creatures. September 2nd, 1928. How, by virtue of the divine fiat, the created things are like members to man, and it gives to man their reason. And how, by withdrawing from it, man gave a blow and severed all these members. How the divine will forms his mothers for Jesus. I was doing the round through the whole creation according to my usual way, to follow what the divine will had done in it. Oh, how beautiful it seemed to me! How the divine fiat enjoyed its triumph, received its full glory, had its total dominion, and extended its life everywhere and in every place. So it is light, and it extends its life of light. It is power, it is order, it is purity, and extends its life of power, of order, of purity in all created things. And so with all the rest of its divine qualities. Therefore each created thing is sacred, more than a relic, because they enclose within themselves the creative power and will, and the very life of He who created them. And while going around, I felt like loving, adoring, embracing, and kissing the sun, the heavens, the stars, the wind, the sea, because they enclosed, veiled and formed, as though many dwellings for He who had created them. But while my mind was wandering in the creation, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, look at how beautiful are our works, pure, holy, and all orderly. And if we made use of the creation in order to form our veils, Our vast dwellings, however, we held back from giving reason to it. There is a footnote with the word reason, meaning intelligence. And if we made use of the creation in order to form our veils, our vast dwellings, however, we held back from giving intelligence to it, because the purpose for which they were created was for man, not for themselves. And therefore, we reserved giving to man the capacity and reason of the whole creation, so that, possessing its reason, he would give us the glory of the light of the sun, of the heavens, of the wind, and of everything else. So we placed the created things as members of man, so that, possessing the reason of these members, he would use them in order to rise back within these veils, to find he who dwelled inside of them as king, and to bring him the glory and the love of these members given to him. But in order for man to do this, and to possess the reason that sun, heavens, wind, and the like would have had, and to keep the created things as his members, he was to possess the life and the dominion of our divine Fiat, that would give him the capacity and vast and sufficient reason for the whole creation, and would maintain the communication and the bond and the inseparability with all these members, the created things. In fact, only our divine will possesses the full reason of what it has done, and we gave this will of ours to man, that it might give him the reason of all of our works, because everything came out as orderly from us, and linked together as members to the body of man, because he was our first love, the purpose of the whole creation. And therefore in him we centralized all the reason that was needed for it. Now, my daughter, by withdrawing from our divine will, man gave a blow and severed his dear and holy members. And this is why he knows little about the value, the sanctity, the power, the light, that as members were already his. And the divine Maker remains without the glory, the love, the gratitude of the head of these members. See then how necessary is the return of my divine Fiat into the head, which is man, so as to restore the order created by us, and have the head put in its place, and the members reunited once again to the one who so barbarously and with harm for himself keeps them severed. Don't you yourself feel how my will alone has the virtue of putting you in communication with the whole creation? And giving you the flight, it gives you the reason of the light, of the heavens, of the sea, of the wind, and wanting to animate all created things with your voice, from the greatest to the smallest, it repeats your delightful refrain. It is I who love you and glorify you in the heavens, in the sun, in the sea, in the wind, and also in the tiny little bird that sings, in the little lamb that bleats, in the fragrance of the flower that ascends to you, and so on and so forth. It is the life of my Fiat, that since it has life in the whole creation, having life in you, makes you love within all things that are already its own. I remained pensive in hearing that by virtue of the fiat, man would possess the reason that the sun, the sea, the wind were to possess. And my beloved Jesus added, "My daughter, man too does this. He does not leave his reason inside the works he does. If he forms a house for himself, if he possesses a land and puts different plants in it, if he does one work or another, these are works that possess no reason. He keeps the reason for himself. And if he gives reason, he gives it to his family, which is not works, but his own children. And he wants them to have the reason of his works, that they may use them according to the will of the Father, so that he may receive from them the glory of his works. If man does this, why could I not do the same? Indeed, with more order, and with multiple works for the good of man, so as to keep him near me, together with me, inside of me, and so very united to me, God as the head, and he as the members, and the creation as his members, and he as the head of it. After this, I continued my acts in the redemption, and pausing when my charming baby Jesus was in Egypt, and my celestial mamma, while rocking him in his poor cradle, was occupied with preparing the garment for the little baby, placing myself near the Queen Mamma, I made my "I love you" flow in the thread that was used for the little garment of Jesus, and I rocked the cradle to make my celestial baby sleep, making my lullabies of love for him, and asking him for the divine fiat. And while it seemed he was closing his eyes to sleep, to my surprise, I saw him raise his little head, and looking at our divine mamma and myself, he said in a most tender tone, "My two mammas, my mamma, and the little daughter of my will. My divine will unites them together for me, and makes them both be my mamma. Why is the celestial queen my true mother? Because she possessed the life of my divine fiat. It alone could administer to her the seed of divine fecundity, to make me be conceived in her womb, and make me her son. So without my divine will, in no way could she be my mamma, because no one else, either in heaven or on earth, possesses this seed of the divine fecundity, that can do no less than make the Creator be conceived in the creature. See, then, my divine will formed the mamma for me, and I made myself her son. Now it is forming for me its little daughter as my mamma, and it makes me find her near my first mother, so as to make her repeat her acts, braiding them together, and to make her impetrate its kingdom, and therefore make her repeat its divine seed and the fecundity of the fiat voluntas tua in the creatures. My will alone can do everything, and can give me everything." Then, closing his eyes to sleep, while sleeping, he repeated, "My two mammas, my two mammas." How tender and moving it was to hear him. How it wounded the heart to see him interrupt his sleep to say, "My two mammas." Oh, divine will, how lovable, powerful, and admirable you are! Oh, please descend into the hearts of all, and place in them this divine seed of yours, so that its fecund seed may form for you your kingdom, and make you reign on earth as you do in heaven. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 24, Part 13. Fiat.